My name's Hank Rivas. I'm 31 years old, a U.S. Army drill sergeant. My life is 4:30 a.m. wake-ups, push-ups until kids puke, and yelling move, move, move until my throat is raw. Out there, on the obstacle course, I know exactly who I am. But in a relationship? That's where I apparently let my guard down. Valeria Calderon, my girlfriend at the time, had been on my case for months about meeting her parents. Not asking politely, more like issuing ultimatums. If you're serious about me, Hank, you need to meet my family. Every argument we had circled back to this dinner. I kept dodging it. Not because I was scared, but because I knew the type. I've been around officers' clubs, politicians, donors. I can spot arrogance a mile away. Her parents lived in Alamo Heights, the kind of neighborhood where even the dogs wear collars worth more than my truck. But eventually I gave in. Maybe I was tired of the nagging, maybe part of me thought she'd relax once I went through the motions. So Saturday night, I put on a button-down, pressed slacks, shined boots that still carried the faint smell of polish from inspection days. Picked up flowers for her mom and a decent bottle of Tempranillo. I wanted to walk in respectful. The car ride should have been my first red flag. Valeria kept coaching me like I was one of her interns. "Don't talk about your job too much," she said. "What the hell else am I supposed to talk about? My job's my life. They'll think you're bragging. And don't mention your hobbies. They'll think you're immature. So I just answer yes or no like I'm under interrogation? Just let them lead. Be charming. Don't overdo it." I should have turned the car around right then. We pulled up to their villa, white stone, iron gate, the whole Spanish aristocrat cosplaying in Texas vibe. Mr. Calderon opened the door with a handshake that felt more like he was testing my grip strength. Mrs. Calderon smiled like a knife blade. Inside was everything I expected. Oversized furniture. A chandelier that probably cost more than my Jeep. Family portraits everywhere, all of Valeria at various stages of being spoiled. Ballet costumes, quinceañera dresses, college graduation on a stage I'm pretty sure Daddy donated half the building to. Dinner table set like they were expecting a magazine shoot. Linen napkins, crystal glasses, silverware arranged like an obstacle course. I handed over the flowers and wine. Mrs. Calderon gave me that polite nod people give when they've already judged you and moved on. And then Valeria made her move. It started subtle. She switched to Spanish with her parents, quick bursts between bites. She leaned toward me, gave me this fake smile and said, "We're just catching up, Carino. We'll switch back in a bit." Except, a bit turned into 2 hours. Now here's the part Valeria didn't know. My abuela, Leticia, raised me speaking Spanish before I could walk. My mom worked doubles, my dad split when I was 10, so abuela filled the house with tortillas and telenovelas. She died when I was 19, and after that I shelved the language. Too many ghosts attached. But it never left me. So while Valeria thought she was running a secret roast, I was catching every bullet. "He's fine but no ambition," she told her parents. "Content being nobody. He shouts for a living. It's embarrassing," she added. Her dad chimed in, "Los de uniform siempre son iguales. They drink, they yell. No future men." Her mom pursed her lips, "And he doesn't even know where he comes from. Americans with no roots. How do you build a future on that?" Valeria nodded like the perfect daughter. "Exactly. He has no culture, no sophistication. He's like dating a golden retriever. Sweet but dumb." Every word landed like a punch, but I didn't flinch. Years of keeping a straight face while recruits screamed in mine taught me how to sit stone still. Meanwhile, in my closet back home sat a blue ring box. Custom work, 2 months with the jeweler. My plan had been to propose in Seville. Flamenco in Triana, terrace dinner overlooking the Giralda. I even booked first-class tickets. And here was Valeria telling her parents I was terrified of commitment. I wanted to laugh. Or scream. Or flip the table. But discipline is about timing. And I wasn't going to waste this moment. Dessert came out. A pear tart that smelled too perfect to be homemade. Mr. Calderon leaned back, looked at me like I was a stray dog Valeria had dragged in, and asked her in Spanish, "Are you sure about this one? He seems simple." That's when Valeria touched my wrist, gave me those puppy dog eyes and said in Spanish, "Don't worry, Papa. He's too stupid to understand us." Look at him, smiling like a trained seal. That was it. Game over. Every insult I'd swallowed solidified into something sharp, clean, unshakable. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to storm out. I was going to wait until the exact second the fuse hit the powder. It came as we stood to leave. Mr. Calderon patted my shoulder, spoke in slow English like addressing a child. "Very nice meeting you, Henry." I smiled. looked him dead in the eye, and in perfect Spanish I said, "El gusto fue mío, Don Rafael. Gracias por recibirme en su casa." The silence was nuclear. Mrs. Calderon dropped her fork. Valeria's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her dad's jaw went slack. I kept going, voice calm, surgical. "Before we go, I'd like to clear up a few small things I heard tonight." That's when the bomb went off. "First money? Valeria said she supports us. That's interesting." I pulled out my phone, showed them the itinerary, first-class tickets, for seasons Seville, Michelin restaurant reservations. This was her birthday surprise. Valeria's face drained. Second, culture. My grandmother raised me in Spanish. I stopped speaking it when I lost her. Not out of shame, out of respect. I don't wear my grief like an accessory. Her mother covered her mouth, horrified. And finally, commitment. She told you I was afraid. Meanwhile, I've spent months working with a jeweler on a custom engagement ring, planning to propose in Spain. But now I realize, I looked straight at Valeria. A man doesn't propose to someone who calls him dumb in his grandmother's tongue. I turned back to her parents. "Thank you for dinner. Your home is beautiful." Then I walked out. Valeria stayed frozen in her chair. The drive home was dead quiet. She climbed out of the car like a ghost, then followed me into my apartment. The second the door shut, she exploded. "You tricked me. You knew the whole time and you just sat there? You planned this." "No, Valeria. I existed. You dug your own grave. I just understood the words you buried yourself with." She paced the living room like a storm. "You never told me you spoke Spanish. You never asked. 3 years and you never once asked about my family, about my grandmother, about who I am. Too busy talking about yourself." That hit her. She froze, mouth opening, closing, then the waterworks came. "I didn't mean it. I was nervous. You know I love you." "No." I walked into the bedroom, started pulling her things from drawers. "You're out by tomorrow. This is my lease. You sleep here sometimes, but you don't live here. Not anymore." Her tears vanished. Anger replaced them. "You can't just kick me out. I have rights." "No, you don't. Not here." That's when I saw it in her eyes. She wasn't going to leave. And that's when the real war started. Valeria didn't leave. Not that night, not the next morning. I woke at 0500, same as always, laced my boots, brewed coffee, and there she was, sitting cross-legged on the couch in pajamas, scrolling her phone like she owned the place. "I'm not going anywhere," she said without looking up. "This isn't a negotiation." I dropped her duffel by the door. "Your stuff's packed. You're out." She finally glanced up, eyes glittering with that entitled fire I'd ignored for too long. "No, Hank. You can't just erase 3 years. You owe me." "Owe you what?" "Compensation." She crossed her arms. "For my time, my love, my sacrifices." I laughed so hard coffee almost came out my nose. "Your sacrifices?" "Valeria, I paid for every trip, every dinner, every designer bag you accidentally left in my cart. The only thing you sacrificed was your dignity at that table." She went red. "I'm not leaving." So I called backup. Rico Nguyen has been my brother since basic. 5'8", IT genius now, sarcasm for blood. I texted him, "Need a witness. Bring coffee." He showed up an hour later with a duffel, 2 Starbucks cups, and that shit-eating grin he saves for disasters he knows will be entertaining. He walked in, clocked Valeria in her pajamas on my couch, and whistled. "So you're the girlfriend who called Hank a trained seal in Spanish? Bold strategy. How's that working out for you?" Valeria blinked. "What's he doing here?" "He's staying here," I said, calm as a drill floor. "You can't just move someone in to intimidate me." Rico grinned. "Ma'am, I'm 5'8" and work in IT. If my presence intimidates you, that says more about your guilty conscience than my intimidation factor." That was day 1 of the siege. Valeria's first move, noise. At 2 a.m. she blasted reggaeton so loud the walls shook. I walked out in boxers, told her to turn it down. She screamed through the door, "This is my home too, I can play music whenever I want." Rico popped in earbuds, muttered, "Princess thinks she's in a telenovela," and went back to sleep. Day 2 she ate all my groceries. Left the fridge empty. I came back from PT starving to find nothing but ketchup and pickles. Rico responded by labeling every single item we bought after that like a museum exhibit. "This yogurt belongs to the man who pays rent. Touch and you owe $5. This sandwich belongs to Drill Sergeant Rivas. Don't steal unless you want push-ups." Valeria went silent the first time she opened the fridge. Next morning Rico had added, "Note, Isabella doesn't buy groceries." Therefore nothing here is hers. I nearly spit coffee laughing. Day 3 she tried passive-aggressive notes. Some people need to learn respect. Rico responded underneath in neat handwriting. Some people need to learn Spanish isn't a secret code. Also, you're out of toilet paper. She crumpled it, stomped her foot. Rico just chuckled. By midweek, Valeria called in her cavalry, her 2 friends, Britt and Naya. They strutted in like lawyers on retainer, plopped themselves on my couch and crossed their legs in unison. You can't kick her out, Britt announced. She has nowhere to go. She has parents, Rico called from the kitchen while making a sandwich. She has Uber. She has options. What she doesn't have is squatters' rights. This is emotional abuse, Naya declared dramatically. Rico didn't even look up. No. Emotional abuse is laughing at your boyfriend in another language for 2 hours. This is consequences. Valeria's jaw dropped. Why do you hate me so much? She snapped at him. I don't hate you, Rico said deadpan. I just have zero tolerance for you. You're used to people enabling you. Hank was too nice to call you out. Your parents spoiled you. Your friends are just as delusional. Me? I don't care about your feelings. So I'm just going to keep pointing out reality. You could have bottled her rage like napalm. By day 5 Valeria was desperate. She pulled every trick. Shower sabotage. She used all the hot water. Rico started waking at 0500, showering first, then brewing loud coffee while she tried to sleep. Food theft. She ate my leftover steak. Rico left a sticky note. You owe Hank $32. Pay by Friday. Interest compounds. Tantrums. She fake cried on the couch. Rico narrated in a David Attenborough voice. Observe the common princess sapiens in her natural habitat. Watch how she fluffs her feathers when denied resources. She screamed, stop talking about me like I'm not here. Rico, without missing a beat, note the agitated squawk when her behavior is documented. I had to bite my fist to keep from laughing. Her friends tried to keep showing up, staging interventions in my living room. One afternoon I came home from base to find them perched like gargoyles, arms crossed. This is abuse. Britt declared again. Rico looked up from his laptop. Ladies, quick question. In what universe does emotional disappointment justify squatting in someone else's apartment? Asking for a friend. Naya tried to film him. He held up his phone. Already recording you. Smile. They bolted. On day 7, Valeria vanished. No warning, no fight, just gone. Rico and I looked at each other like maybe she'd finally accepted reality. Then I walked into my bedroom. Half my stuff was missing. My iPad. 2 watches. Headphones. My deployment footlocker. And the one thing that made my stomach drop, my abuela's silver rosary, the one she carried through every mass, the beads worn smooth from her thumb. A text buzzed in. Valeria, I took what I deserve. Consider it compensation for 3 years of emotional labor. My hand shook, but not from fear. From fury. Rico read over my shoulder. Wow. Emotional labor. Is that what we're calling theft now? Cool. Screenshotted. That was the moment I stopped trying to handle it myself. Next morning, I sat across from my lawyer, Marta Sandoval. Navy veteran, now a shark in heels. I laid out everything. Screenshots, stolen property, videos of Valeria's friends harassing me at the gym, texts, timestamps, doorcam footage. Marta listened, eyes cold, and finally said, this isn't a breakup anymore. This is criminal. We're filing for a temporary restraining order, theft charges, harassment, and a civil suit. You have proof of everything? Every last bit. Good. We'll bury her in paperwork. And we did. Restraining order was granted immediately. Judge saw the screenshots and footage and didn't blink. Miss Calderon is to have no contact whatsoever with Sergeant Rivas. Any violation results in immediate arrest. The process server said Valeria cried, screamed, then tried to claim she was the victim. Typical. But I wasn't done. Rico dug into her job, a boutique tequila import firm that sold authentic heritage to Instagram influencers. Their code of conduct was stricter than Army regs. I packaged screenshots of her harassment posts, videos of her and her friends cornering me in public, and emailed it all, anonymously, to their HR. 48 hours later, she was fired. Rico toasted me with a beer that night. Timing is everything, Sarge. Timing is everything. But Valeria didn't go quietly. She and her friends started showing up everywhere. My gym, coffee shop, even the PX. They wanted a show. I gave them silence. One morning, I spotted them camped outside my apartment building at 0600. Rico peeked through the blinds. Congratulations, Hank. You've officially attracted wildlife. Should I call animal control? It escalated to my office. Security footage caught her trying to storm in, screaming at the front desk to calm me down. Marcus, the 6'5" guard, had to drag her out while she shrieked about her rights. Marta added that footage to our file with a smile. Meanwhile, Valeria tried social media. One day I was an abuser, the next I was a thief, the day after I was a cheater. The problem with liars is they never keep their lies straight. Her story contradicted her friend's posts within 48 hours. We compiled everything. And then came the twist I never saw coming. Marta called me on a Tuesday afternoon. "You're not going to believe this, Hank. Senor Calderon contacted me privately." Her father? Yes. He's seen the evidence packet. He wants to meet. He says he's ashamed. I didn't believe it until I walked into Marta's office the next day and saw him sitting there. The same man who'd called me simple now looked like someone had gutted him. 10 years older in a week. He placed a velvet pouch on the table and slid it toward me. I opened it. My abuela's rosary. My throat tightened. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly. "What happened at dinner, what my daughter has done since. This is not how we raised her." He placed a cashier's check beside it. "Full damages. Legal fees. Extra. Please. Settle this quietly. Spare our family more humiliation." I stared at the pouch, then at him. For the first time I saw no arrogance. Just a father who'd realized too late what his daughter had become. But the real reckoning was still to come. When the court date came, I woke up at 0430 like always. Shower. Coffee. Polish the boots. Not because I needed to impress anyone, but because routine keeps you steady when chaos wants to drag you under. Valeria walked into that courthouse dressed like innocence itself. Light pastels, hair curled, makeup soft. Her lawyer looked like a billboard hack who probably ran ads during daytime TV. "Injured? Call me." She scanned the room, expecting her parents to be behind her. When her eyes landed on her father, sitting quietly on my side of the courtroom, she froze. It was like watching a tower collapse in slow motion. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. Her lawyer had to touch her elbow to steady her. That was the first crack. Marta stood and laid everything out with the precision of a field manual. Screenshots of Valeria admitting theft. Security footage of her storming my office building. Photos of her and her friends following me to the gym, the PX, even the coffee shop. The restraining order violations time-stamped and signed. Then came the velvet pouch. Marta placed it gently on the evidence table. I swallowed hard. This rosary belonged to my grandmother. Valeria took it from my apartment. It's the only thing I have left of her. The judge leaned forward. And this was found, where? Recovered from Ms. Calderon's residence under search warrant, Marta said. Valeria's lawyer tried to spin it. Claimed I gave it as a gift. But Marta had photos, me holding that rosary months before the breakup, time-stamped metadata intact. Game over. Valeria started whispering furiously to her lawyer. He shook his head. Even he knew the ground was gone beneath her feet. And then Marta delivered the kill shot. "Your Honor, even the defendant's father recognizes the severity of her behavior. Senor Calderon has cooperated fully with the recovery of stolen property and has taken responsibility for damages." The judge turned his gaze on Valeria. "Is this true? Your own father is here as a witness against you?" Valeria whipped around to look at him. "Papa?" Her voice cracked, high-pitched, desperate. He wouldn't meet her eyes. Just stared at his hands. That was when she broke. Her face twisted, and for once, no performance could save her. The settlement came fast after that. Her lawyer practically begged to avoid trial once it was clear even her father wasn't backing her. Full damages. Legal fees. Agreement to return everything else she'd taken. Valeria sat there, shoulders hunched as if the walls were closing in. When the judge dismissed us, I walked out into the sun with Marta and Rico. Behind me, Valeria broke down in the hallway, crying to her mother. Her father walked right past her without stopping. It hit me then, she hadn't just lost me. She'd lost her parents' respect. And that would hurt longer than any lawsuit. Rico clapped me on the back. "Justice served, Sarge." With a side of poetic timing. The next 6 months were a slow unwind. Valeria's job gone. Her so-called friends, Britt and Naya, peeled away the second they realized they could be dragged in as accessories. Her reputation in our circle? Torched. She moved back into her parents' house, but word was things were cold there. Her father barely spoke to her. "Me. I got everything back. My iPad, my watches, my headphones. The deployment footlocker was dented, but intact. My grandmother's rosary, polished, hung in its place of honor, untouched from then on. The watches were scratched, but the scratches only increased the settlement amount. Funny how that works. One night Rico and I were at a bar when she walked in. She saw me, froze, and then bolted down a side aisle like a deer spotting a hunter. I didn't move. Just sipped my drink. Rico leaned over and whispered, "Damn, she looks rough." And she did. Stress had carved lines into her face, her eyes tired, shoulders hunched like the weight of consequences was finally pressing down. Part of me almost pitied her. Almost. Then I remembered her laughing while calling me a trained seal in Spanish, and the pity evaporated. Life leveled out. I poured myself back into the army, into the recruits who needed someone who didn't just bark orders but understood timing, discipline, and dignity. My voice carried sharper, my lessons landed harder. Not just do the push-ups, but respect is earned when you think nobody's watching. And somewhere along the way I met Maya. Veterinarian. Sharp wit. Warm eyes. The kind of woman who asked follow-up questions and actually remembered the answers. Our first dinner with her parents was the opposite of the Calderon disaster. Backyard barbecue, cold beers, easy laughter. They switched into Spanish halfway through, not to hide but to share stories of their hometown in Monterrey. I joined in and Maya just squeezed my hand under the table, proud instead of threatened. That's when I knew, this was what it should feel like. I think about that night at the Calderon sometimes. About how silence can be its own weapon. In my line of work, we teach recruits to shout, to break through barriers with volume. But what they don't always understand is that discipline isn't about the noise. It's about knowing when to wait, when to breathe, when to let your enemy underestimate you before you strike. Valeria thought Spanish was her secret code. She thought she was clever, safe, untouchable. She used my grandmother's language like a knife. I let her. For 2 hours I let her. Because timing matters. And when I finally spoke, the silence that followed spoke louder than any scream could have. She wanted me humiliated. She ended up humiliated by her own father in open court. That's not revenge. That's justice. A few months ago, I was in the grocery store with Maya. We were picking out vegetables for a carne asada, laughing about how I still can't pick a ripe avocado. Down the aisle I saw Valeria. She spotted me, froze, turned pale, and darted the other way. I didn't say a word. Didn't need to. Rico, who tagged along, just chuckled. Guess she still remembers, huh? I grinned. Good. Some lessons you don't forget. Because here's the truth. You can survive the yelling of a drill sergeant, the sweat of the obstacle course, the pain of push-ups until your arms collapse. But you cannot survive betraying someone who sees everything, hears everything, and waits until the perfect moment to strike back. Valeria learned that the hard way. And me? I walked away with my dignity, my grandmother's rosary, and a life better than I ever imagined.